Diale is our next speaker. He's the Chief Executive Officer at Brucol Global Development. And his company is one of the winners for the TT100 Awards program that we run once a year. And you won the Emerging Company for Technology, Management of Technology and Management of Innovation. Okay. So as a small company, I mean, that in itself is excellent. In fact, an emerging company, tiny, but already achieved an excellent award and various other awards I'll tell you now. So Bruce Diale, do I say it right?
Yes.
Okay. Is a dedicated young business individual who has a passion to grow his business into a global brand. He studied the BSc in agriculture and is due to graduate for a master's in business administration. That's so wrong. You should have been with the Vinci, but anyway. He also enrolled for a postgraduate diploma in development finance with the University of Stellenbosch. It is clear he intends to take the business to extensive heights. Bruce is young and innovative. He is the CEO of Brucol Global Development, an agricultural consulting company which he founded in 2014 for the purpose of empowering previously disadvantaged young people within the agricultural sector. Bruce is also a co-founder, now this is where it really becomes interesting, of, how do you say this? Garden Easily.
Correct.
Garden Easily, a water-efficient vegetable garden technology which is currently changing the agricultural landscape. I hope the guys in Cape Town know about this. He's also the founder of Top Learner Mentorship, a youth development non-profit organization that focuses on empowering young people from rural backgrounds through quality education initiatives that aid them to perform better in high school and links them with financial institutions that can fund their further education. Bruce has also recently won the National Engine Pitch and Polish, is that right, competition, which challenges young entrepreneurs across the country to pitch their business to investors, competing against winners from each province. Bruce won first prize. This is going to be very interesting. So let's put our hands together and
ladies and gentlemen, I think I have a quick disclaimer before I begin. I am not an academic.
That's okay.
I'm not an academic. I am an entrepreneur. I go to school specifically to learn about things that challenge me within my business landscape. So the reason I've enrolled for postgraduate diploma in development finance is because during my research for my MBA research, my topic is based on factors that lead to the collapse of agricultural cooperatives within rural communities. And I realized that apart from many different factors of incompetency and lack of access to support and information and so on, the biggest challenge was how the financing model was set up. So I decided to try and branch into development finance division within my company to be able to finance such initiatives within the agricultural sector. So that is the only reason why I'm doing a postgraduate diploma in development finance. I hate research, I hate methodology, but I have to do it. So please, when you have any question to ask me, please do not ask me
a research question,
stratified or anything relating to my methodology, but you can ask me anything relating to my business and our approach, and I will gladly be able to speak thereof. I just want to open my, yes. Okay, so before I start, I'd just like to share a few intriguing stories with you that I think can, wake us up a little bit and also give us a better perspective of the angle in which I am coming from. Because I'm just generally going to be talking about innovation and technology from a business perspective and not from an academic perspective. So there's a man called Ray Kroc. For those who know McDonald's, people refer to him as the founder of McDonald's, and I completely disagree, because he's the founder of the McDonald's Corporation, but not the founder of McDonald's. McDonald's was found by two men who are called Dick and Mac, but their real names are Richard and Maurice McDonald. Now these two men are the people who founded the McDonald concept, who implemented and started a McDonald business and had no intentions of franchising it whatsoever. And Ray Kroc came as a man who was selling milkshake making machines. And he was selling one milkshake making machine every 2 months. And for some odd reason, he had an order of 8 machines in a day. And he was very curious to know who would want to buy 8 machines in one day. So he decided to go and visit these men. And when he got there, he found this amazing place that sold burgers that were moving so quickly. During that time, in order for you to order from a restaurant, it would take you roughly 30 to 40 minutes to get a meal. So it will take you the exact amount of time it will take you to cook it from your household. So they came up with an initiative that was able to give you food fast and quick. And Ray Kroc, being the person that he was, an entrepreneur, he came to them and decided, no, guys, we can franchise this thing and take it out and branch it. He literally referred to McDonald's, and it could become the new church. You see, so the McDonald brothers were concerned about quality. They were concerned about systems and how would this contaminate the brand and the image of the whole McDonald concept. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we refer to as innovators. Innovators are completely different from entrepreneurs. An entrepreneur is concerned about money, figures, growth, expansion, and innovators are more concerned about the product, how it works, how it is going to grow and change the world, and how it's not going to be changed in any way whatsoever. Now, when we then move to another set of individuals, there is a man called Tom Edison. Tom Edison discovered the light bulb, electricity, direct current. But he had a partner whose name was called Nikola Tesla. Now, Nikola Tesla disagreed with the way AC current operated, and thus came and said, no, look, direct current is not effective. How about we try alternative current? This is how it's going to work. But like I've said, because innovators are very, I'd like to use the word selfish, but not in a bad way. If I invent this television, I do not want you to change anything about it. Don't tell me that there can be a 32 and a 64 and a 108 inch. I want it exactly as it is. Don't even change the color of the way it's named. That is how an innovator thinks. But then when you get an entrepreneur, they come and say, no, but we can have different sizes for different households, which can attract different clients and so on. So I think you already get the picture of the two different types of individuals that I'm talking about. Now, when alternative direct current was discovered by Tom Edison, he had an investor whose name is J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan was a very, very rich man. He used to borrow money to the American government. That's how much money he had. So he was then the entrepreneur that drove the direct current concept to what it was supposed to become, unfortunately. Now, on the other hand, when Nikola Tesla realized that Tom Edison is not going to budge, he's not going to change anything about his product, he packed bags and he quit and he left and he started his own company. And then he was supported by a man called George Wellington, who is also an entrepreneur. Now, George Wellington supported alternative current and Tom Edison in what he was trying to achieve. And they then moved and tried to venture and to teach the world that alternative current is the way things should be. That is why we now have the biggest rivalry of AC/DC current, if you've ever seen it. I've even seen a couple of pictures written AC/DC. Now, what happened? What happened is there was a big tender that was out for the Niagara Falls in America. Whoever won the tender was going to be the person who was going to electrify the New York City and ultimately America and ultimately the whole world. And Nikola Tesla with George Wellington won that tender, which is why today alternative current is the preferred type of electricity.
Interesting.
I'm giving you this analogy because I'm trying to show you. And
I found the song.
so Siri is listening to me and retyping what I'm saying. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, I'd like to give you my analogy of a certain aspect about a man called Albert Einstein. I believe Albert Einstein only became rich after his death because of the fact that he did not have an entrepreneur to support his initiatives and his formulas that he discovered. That is why he ended up as a very good professor, earning a very good salary, and that was that.
So you're telling the academic something.
I hope I'm not stepping on any toes. So I'm not going to introduce myself any further. I think you've already done that for me, man. So, but what I'm ultimately trying to show is that in order for an innovation to get to where it should be, there needs to be an entrepreneur who brings in a different set of skills, expertise, and understanding. Like they've already, we've already had this explanation about competency and competence, and it's very imperative that in an entrepreneurial venture, these people have different competencies and competence, because the fearlessness of an innovator lies in the protection of the product, while the fearlessness and energy of an entrepreneur lies in growing the product into what it's supposed to be. So I, ladies and gentlemen, am not an innovator. I am an entrepreneur, which is why I'm the co-founder of Garden Easily, which is the picture that we're just about to see here. Garden Easily is a tower gardening technology which was invented by my father and I. He is an academic. He has a doctorate in development studies. So he's an academic. He's done everything in academics, and I haven't. But the difference between him and I is exactly that, and which is why he runs the research and development part of the business, and I run the marketing and distribution of the company. So this is our product. This is what it looks like. You basically put potting soil inside, a specialized type of potting soil that we have set up ourselves, and then you plant on the holes. These are all holes, as you can see them, and you plant your vegetables there. It's a very good food security initiative. For example, if you've planted spinach on this, you'll be able to harvest every single day for an entire year without having to replant. So our target market for now is rural communities, and you will understand further why exactly that as I go into a detail of our company. So I've won 2 awards with the TT100. One was the best emerging enterprise for the excellence in the management of technology, and one was best emerging enterprise for the excellence in the management of innovation. But we were also what do you call runner-ups? Yeah, for the excellence in the management of people within our organization, and also the overall prize, the overall ministerial prize. But the reason these 2 awards are separated is that a lot of people tend to confuse innovation and technology.
Yes.
These 2 things are totally different things. One, technology, innovation is the product, the unit, or because there are different types of innovation, but in this case I'll refer to the product. This is the innovation. But the technology now, we refer to the systems and the tools that were used to bring about the particular innovation. So it is imperative and very important to be able to manage the technology itself, but equally be able to manage the process and the technological setup that is involved with getting the product to where it is supposed to be. Why is the management of the technology important? When we look at our product particularly, it's made of plastic. So we use a process called blow molding. Now in the blow molding process, basically we have a plastic mold, a steel mold, and they pour the plastic inside the mold and they put it in an oven, and then it dries up and they remove the steel mold and you have your product. And then there is what we call an injection molding process. Now that is a different process altogether. It has a different kind of a mold that is set up. Let's say it's two, so it's got a hole in between, and they just inject in between, and when they remove the mold, you have a product. These two technologies are different. In what sense? The blow molding is cheaper to set up a blow molding plant. 1. 2, it is cheaper to buy or to build a blow molding mold which you're going to use to make the product. But then it is expensive to manufacture one unit, and it takes more time to manufacture one unit. With the injection molding process, it is expensive to set up a blow molding plant, and it is even more expensive to have a blow molding mold, which costs you around R1,000,000 a unit. We need 2 because it's 2 parts of the product. And the other process, which is the blow molding, it's 40,000 to set up the mold. So you see already there's a difference. The difference now is that the injection molding process, in as much as it's more expensive and all of that, it is quicker to manufacture one unit, and you can manufacture more units at a time. So you can make 3-5 times more units an hour than you would make with the blow molding process. Now what this then means is that it puts us in a dilemma, because with the injection molding process you also make your product for much cheaper, half the price. Now as an emerging enterprise, when you do not understand the technological process that is involved in manufacturing your product, you might end up making your product using a wrong process, which might be more expensive or fairly cheaper. Now, we chose the blow molding process. Why? Because it was easier for us to enter the market. We only needed 40,000 rand, but we knew that we would compromise on the amount of units that we would make on a daily basis. If we were to choose the other process, we would need 1.2 million rand to start, which will probably still be holding our hands wondering when exactly are we going to start with the process. So that is why it is important to understand the different technological processes that are involved. Another important aspect is that because we chose the blow molding process, it meant that our product was going to cost us 1,500 rand and more to make one unit. But with the other process, it would cost us 700 to 600 rand to make one unit. Now, what this does is it automatically then directs us to a particular market. Because when we do our market research, we realize that people are not willing to pay 2,000 or 3,000 rand on a single unit. And therefore, when we look at large corporates, they don't have a problem of paying 6,000 to 10,000 rand on one unit, as long as if it's for a good cause for communities.
Yeah.
So then that now channels us to focus on a specific market, simply because of the process that we are using. We are unable to get into hardware stores, macro, all these large companies, because our price is too high at the moment. The only way we can then get into that market is based on once we have enough capital to be able to finance molds from the other production process. So you see, that is why it is important to understand the different technological processes that are involved in your innovation. Now, once we have excelled at understanding the different technologies, automatically that already just gives you a perspective of your entire business altogether. Once that is done, we then talk about the innovation process, which is what has actually caused the judges to be very happy and proud to, you know, to award us this, because we managed to show them how exactly do we understand the process that is involved with bringing this product to what it is today. The first thing that we looked at is the partnership, which I've already explained on, that, you know, it's a father-son relationship, but however, when we put it in a professional sense, we had to identify who has which qualities, who's the entrepreneur and who's the innovator. And from there on, we were able to allocate ourselves different tasks, that then you'll be in charge of research and development, and I will be in charge of marketing and distribution of the product. Then I'm not going to talk about the different types of innovations that are involved, but it is also important to highlight that when you want to become an innovator. I personally believe every person is an innovator in their own right. It's just that people don't know that. Because people think when we talk about innovation, it has to be some guy wearing glasses and they're doing some amazing thing. But you can literally innovate a process. You can literally innovate a system. You can literally innovate a business model that companies are not using at the moment. We even have innovations that is just simply meant to stimulate people's emotion, you know. So there are different ways of innovating things, and I think we are in an era where we need to start showing people and teaching people that innovation is not about the scientific lab-related services that everyone makes it to look like. And then another aspect which was important is that you have to, or what we did is we bootstrapped our way into where we are today. And bootstrapping is the art of starting with little or whatever that you have. Because the biggest problem that people have is that they are waiting for someone to give them 2 million rand or funding or 5 million to start their operations. And we did not do that. We just started with what we had, the little that we had. We tried to get 40,000 somehow. We got it. We made a mold. We made our first unit, and we had to give it away to the government for free. You know, I've had so many government institutions that we've given samples to. Sometimes I'd be so broke and ask them, can't you just give me 100 rand just for the petrol of bringing this to you? I remember I had to take a sample to the Botswana border for the Botswana government. In the agriculture department of Botswana, they're interested, and they are now doing some research on the product before they can approve it for their people. But I had to take it that far and drive it there, and I was so broke. And when I got there, they took the product, and I looked at the man, and I just hoped he could say, let me just pay you for it, and he did not mention a word. You know, but it is important to speak about the aspect of bootstrapping and starting this, and I think it's imperative that we have this conversation, because as academics, when you go back into our respective classrooms and academic spaces, we need to make people aware, and the way we speak about innovation should involve these things, because the way things have been set up is that we teach people too much theoretical aspects and give them terms and these things, and when they have to go out and innovate, they don't even know where to start. You see, so yes, so it's very important to focus on things such as bootstrapping, for people to understand that when you exit this classroom, if you thought you're just going to draw your product on a piece of paper and say, wow, government or whoever, look at this, give me 5 million, it's not going to work. If anybody wants to invest in something that is tangible, that is already started, and then that puts you already in a cul-de-sac, because you need money to start, and they need you to start before they can give you money. And you see, it's this vicious cycle. Yeah. And then what we then did, moving forward from that, is that we tried to build a brand out of our product. We entered as many competitions as we could. We went out, we attended different exhibitions. We've been to the Rand Show, we've been to food and water scarcity exhibitions in the Eastern Cape, and Kimberley, all those kind of places. And some of them were fruitless, we did not yield anything out of that. But it is important that you get the innovation out there for people to know about it, for people to learn about it and to understand about it. Today, I'm happy because 27 new people know about our product. No one has to pay me to speak here today, but I know that there's going to be more worth than just that. If someone is sitting here and they decide, oh, I know so-and-so who works in company so-and-so who would be interested in buying this for, and then that's a win-win for us. And once you have done that, once you have bootstrapped your way, and once you have found yourself with a brand, a little bit of a brand, you're already in the process. You have already started. And once you've started, you start to see the value in your product. And once you see the value in your product, you then start to find yourself in a situation where you are able to decline an offer of 1.2 million rand for a shareholding in your company. It's not easy. I declined an offer about 3 weeks ago. It was very difficult. But because I understand and I already see the value of my product, I can already quantify how much I would make from it. I'm not going to be willing to give away a portion of that for 1.2 million, 20% of my business for 1.2 million. If I think in 5 years' time it will be worth 10 billion, then someone will be sitting there enjoying 20% of 10 billion just because I was desperate one day, So that's just some of those the aspects that make you to see your product and envision it for what it truly becomes. Then, once that is done, we then conclude by talking about the 6 core stages of an innovation, which are very important. And that's where a lot of people start to struggle in getting their products moving forward. Because people think once you start marketing the product and people start to like it, we then start to think that is it. But that is actually the starting point. Because once you market the product, you start to have clients. And when we have clients, then you start to have a problem with how is the product purchased. One, how is the product delivered? How is the product used? What are the supplements of the product? How is the product maintained? And how is the product disposed? People neglect the last part, the disposal of the product or the service. And there are companies that end up bankrupt or closed down because their disposal process has set a negative image on the brand. Because now when you let's take a battery for example, you just throw it away into the gutter and all of a sudden it's a hazard to the environment. What then happens to your brand when people start talking about this thing? We're actually unable to dispose this thing. People then stop buying it. People lose confidence in the product, and you've done everything right except for mastering your disposal process of the product. So every single aspect of every single stage is very important, so that you are able to understand your product cycle altogether. You see, with us, our product now, we're building an interactive website for people to be able to buy it online. And our biggest challenge now is when you purchase one unit, it comes with 14 bags of potting soil. How do you then distribute that to a person who's in Ghana or who's in Europe and is interested and wants to buy the product? Now the courier company has to, take 14 bags of potting soil. You see, now the delivery process altogether is a mess. So we are now in a phase where now we have to come up with a plan on, if someone buys the unit and they don't have to get the potting soil, how will they have access to the potting soil from where they are? What if the potting soil that they buy will not work as the one that we have? See that now we have a new problem altogether. Then we have to now innovate a new system. We have to now go and find out different companies that exist. We have to find companies that are already spread out across the whole country that can be able to follow, our ingredients and make the potting soil according to that, so that people can have access to it. But you see that by understanding that we need to master our delivery, we've already identified certain problems in our production cycle. Now, from there on, how's the product used? Innovators know how to use their product. I mean, they're the ones who made the product. But when you take it out to an ordinary person, you literally need to make the product so simple that a 3-year-old can use it. Because if you do not do that, you're going to explore and realize how lazy people really are.
They don't read instructions.
You know, people don't read instructions, and people, even after reading instructions, still feel like this could have been made easier. I assure you, if I bring a table now, only 2 or 3 of us might be able to assemble it with the instruction manual present. You know, so it's that on its own is another challenge and another process altogether. So what do we then do? We align ourselves with the challenge that exists, and we make sure that when you get a product, we've made a DVD that you can just install and watch before you start the plantation of your things. And we also have a manual that shows you which vegetables you can plant on which date. And now we're busy then trying to establish an app that will be able to show you, once you've planted, will tell you now it's time to harvest, now it's time to water, and so on. No, to simplify the process for people who would like to use the product. And then, like, lastly is the disposal process, which I have spoken about. Now, the whole idea here is to understand and to take everything that I have tried to explain today and put it into one box, because that is exactly what is needed in order to get an innovation to where it needs to go. You know, there are challenges obviously that are involved. My father and I, we fight every single month. We fight, you know, because when I come to him and I say we need to reduce the weight of this product so that it can fit in a box, and he tells me, if you dare touch that product and you dare change the weight, you and I are going to fight. You see, because he's talking from an innovative point of view. I'm talking from a business point of view. I remember we had a fight about the process. I said we need to use recycled plastic, and he's still refusing till today, you know, because he feels like it might affect the quality of the product, which I feel won't. I think we'll make a lot more money because then we'll use far less, you know, plastic material, but he doesn't see it that way. And those are just some of the realities that exist within the innovation environment, rather than all these you know, scientifically explained definitions that are put out for people to understand and to define innovation. Today, I would like people to see themselves as innovators, to go and think, you know, because you have what we call, I don't know, component-related innovations, where you just simply innovate the screw that goes on, you know a bicycle chair, the screw that goes onto the bicycle chair. You can literally just innovate that screw. You know, and you look at the bicycle and say, no, I don't like the fact that when this bicycle gets old, the chair starts to, you know, yes. What, you know, and that is just the innovation on its own. That we need to see and start asking questions. You cannot become innovative if you do not ask any question at all. I see that we might have run out of time, so I'd just like to thank everyone, you know, for giving me an opportunity to take your attention and to use it to my disposal. And this was just my personal definition of what innovation is to me, you know. And I think we really need to innovate, you know, the way we speak about innovation in itself. Otherwise, what point or what good would it be, you know, to speak about innovation and yet not innovate the way you define what it means to you as a person? I thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. That's all right.
Oh, actually.
Yeah. All right, I think I wanted to put that up again because I'm fascinated by it. You know, I think it's really interesting. Shall I open the floor for a couple of questions? If we have a few minutes. Safisu? Sorry, I didn't see you.
No, it's fine. After Safisu.
I'm trying to understand what you understand by the term innovator as opposed to entrepreneur, for instance.
Yes.
Do you see these as pathological phenomenon or diseases that if you're an innovator, you're always like thinking of innovating, like I want to innovate this chair, I want to innovate you, I want to innovate everybody. Do you switch it on and off? When does it come? Has it got seasons? Like, does it come in Fridays? Does it come during Easter and that sort of thing? Is it something that one can control? And similarly with entrepreneurship, and I'm trying to balance this with your thriving business where you're working on one business, but are you a serial entrepreneur? Are you going to ignore opportunities outside of what you are doing with your father and pursue other opportunities because you are an entrepreneur? Can you actually stop that and restrict that to what you are doing?
I kind of picked two questions in that. The first being, the one you asked about, when exactly does it kick in? Is it something that happens overnight or what? But you see, an entrepreneur has a skill of identifying a solution, or not necessarily a solution, but an opportunity where there is one. And an innovator identifies a solution where there is a problem. So it's almost like it's something that is within you as a person, and it's mostly related to the industry that you will be in. If you are an innovator and you are in an industry of water and sanitation, you will somehow innovate something within that space, because when you identify a problem, you are quickly able to come up with some sort of a solution for it. Similarly with an entrepreneur, you put him in any space, you put him in a shop, you put him in the pool. If he sees an opportunity to make money, he will explore that opportunity. So it's almost, it just happens when that opportunity prevails. And the second question, my company is an agricultural consulting company, and our focus is rural development, food security, from an agricultural perspective. So it's very easy to work with this product and do other things that are related to agriculture, because each and every aspect that we embark in is almost like a product range in our business. Like we are accredited for training with Curiosita and food and beverage sector. So we offer training to farmers, but we also offer mentorship and support to farmers. But because it is within the agricultural landscape, it's very easy, because it's what we do. I don't explore other opportunities and other industries. I can easily let a business opportunity down because I feel like it is not related to my business expertise.
Good, thank you.
Oh, thanks so much and congratulations on this. Just a question in terms of your distribution channel.
Yeah.
One of the things you had spoken about is corporates could assist you. So are you working with like Nedbank? Because they have this whole green effect where they take vegetables into schools and they teach students. Yeah, they do. I mean, I guess this is one of the benefits you spoke about earlier on when you say networking.
Yeah.
Because there's a huge, in terms of their corporate social responsibility, as well as their green affinity campaign, what they do have is they go to rural schools and then they actually help in terms of building, starting gardens. And that's an opportunity. I mean, it's massive and it's national. That's the first thing. And then the second question, the second thing I'd like to ask about is, in terms of where you are, your business, I'm getting a sense that this is more subsistence versus commercialization, as in massive scale. Am I right or wrong?
No.
What is your vision in that regard?
Yeah, you see, because we have different types of clients, as I've already mentioned. We have the government and corporate who buy the units for food security purposes for rural households. But we also have commercial farmers who feel that they'd rather use the product to plant in rather than planting on using conventional agricultural processes. And we have urban clients, or people who stay in the cities who just want to do some sort of garden. That's why now our model is shifting to focus more on urbanization. That's why we're talking about apps and whatnot, to be able to capture that kind of a market, so that it's not only focused
No, not a single
on a single yes.
Because that was my other question, sorry if you don't
Sure,
mind,
go ahead.
was you spoke, well, initially you focused a lot on rural.
Yeah.
So I was just going to say, technology is one of the issues.
Yes.
The advent of, not having access to certain things. How would you make sure that the rural community would be able to use your apps and stuff when they don't have?
Oh.
Yeah, so that's why.
No. The rural is mainly just for food security purposes.
Okay.
And we are now in the process. I mean, we're growing. We have big orders that we're currently working on. So very soon we will have molds from the injection molding process. Therefore, we'll be able to afford to venture into the market of urban people. That's why we're building apps, and because we're already aligning ourselves with that market.
Okay. Oh, 3.
And I wanted to clarify, so I like the differentiation between entrepreneurial, but I think the word that is more appropriate to what you were saying was inventor. So an inventor is not necessarily an entrepreneur, but an innovator is innovation. Innovation involves the process of commercialization, turning something into a profit and having an economic benefit. So that's fundamental to innovation. But the inventor may just invent a product, but he doesn't have the entrepreneurial vision or the innovation capability to convert it into a
That's
profit.
true. Yeah.
That's very interesting.
When you started your story, you started with the case of McDonald's and the guy who commercialized.
Yes.
And then you mentioned this now, I think I like his term also, there is the inventor, then there is the innovator and entrepreneur. Now, when you're an entrepreneur, when is it ideal to bring in a funder? Like you mentioned, like for the light bulb, they brought in
JP Morgan.
JP Morgan. When is it ideal, from your own view, to bring in an investor? Because instead of selling something and making 100 rand, you can get a funder to come in and make $1 million.
Yes.
When is it ideal to bring in that financing?
Yes. In my view, for me as an entrepreneur, when I answer, I'm not going to give you an answer from an entrepreneurial perspective, because I'm giving you from an inventor perspective. It's better to have the product already established. You don't have to have marketed it and whatnot, but have the product established and own the patent of the product. See, then you have bargaining power. Because when an investor comes on board and you haven't, patent your product yet, or you haven't done a prototype yet, he can easily take a larger chunk of your business because you are in a desperate position. So he's got more bargaining power. So you have to make sure that you have everything in order and you make it clear, I just need you and your money. That's all. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, but I mean, in an ideal living environment, it becomes a bit difficult. Yeah.
Okay. You had your hand?
I just wanted to find out, I don't know about the setup in rural South Africa, but I'm originally from Zambia, and what I know is that we had more land in the rural areas than in town.
Yeah.
So looking at your model, I was just thinking to myself, there's a small piece of land that we own outside Livingston, which is in town. My dad always says, if only we could come up with ways to use all this land, 9 hectares of land. We need to find ways to use every inch of this land. That means we have land. Now, I'm looking at your model. I stay in a little cottage here. I would love to have that garden in my cottage. Would it make more sense for us to have that in an urban setup than in a rural area where there is land? Where is the difference? Do you have a better turnaround time for your vegetables when they grow up in that model? What's the advantage? Because I'd rather use my land in the rural area and have that in town.
That's a good question. So you see, in the rural area, the product answers a different question altogether. In the rural area, garden easily answers the question of food insecurity and lack of access to sufficient water, because you save water. I mean, you use only 10 liters of water a week to irrigate, which is 10 times less than what you would use conventional land. And in the urban area, it answers the question of space, because on less than a meter's size, you can have 56 plants, because that's got 56 holes on it. You see, so it answers the question of space. Obviously, the question of water use is still, you know, relevant, therefore you use less water and so on, but it's more space related. But the challenge that we had in focusing on that urban market was the fact that our price was too high for the consumer in that space. And it was based on the fact that the process that we were using was expensive to make a unit. And the fact that we could not or did not have enough capital to finance the molds that would help us make the models cheaper. So we decided, no, let's start with this market and get enough capital with that and use that to finance this part. And once we've done that, then we venture into, you know, I so wished that as I was standing here today, I had finalized an order. There's a big order that we're busy finalizing, and it's just taking too long. It's draining me. I'm just waiting for an email just to confirm that, yeah, no, everything is done. It's a big order, you know. I wished I was going to stand here and tell you that today I stand here in front of you, you know. Ladies and gentlemen. So it's unfortunate that, you know, I don't know if I'm 24 hours, 48 hours from being that, but I'm very close. Yeah. So you see, so do you understand why we are not yet captured that market yet? But because we already see that that's where we're going, we're already aligning ourselves, building interactive websites, you know, building apps, so that when we venture into that, we know that we have everything that attracts that particular market.
Okay, Emika, and then Avino.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. It's very interesting and fascinating to see a young black man who has done some bit of innovation and has got something to sell.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm impressed. You said something that you are doing a research in master's degree in development finance.
Yes. No. I've enrolled.
Okay, enrolled.
I haven't started yet. I'm going to school next week.
Okay, so you have an interest in
development finance, yes.
Okay. You know, that is a very important place to, it's a very important subject, you know, to apply your mind, particularly in Africa. I think I was somewhere last week where an issue was discussed and I was asking this question, who is going to pay? Who is going to pay for the development of the black man in Africa? Who is going to pay for it? Where is the money going to come from? And what the hell is money? And where is it going to come from?
Yeah.
Now, if you ask yourself these questions, I'm sure that's there's a very big paradox you mentioned here. They want to give you money when you have started.
Yeah.
And you need money to start,
yes.
which you don't have.
Yeah.
So these two things are tearing
yes.
the innovative mind or the inventive mind or the entrepreneurial mind of Africa apart.
Yeah.
So this has halted quite a lot of people and a lot of initiatives. Now, I don't know how far you have been able to get money from this so-called whoever has this money.
Yeah.
And what this money is. And whether you have gotten, whether there are so many people like you out there, I'm sure you are moving around the circle of people who are doing innovations and having certain things and looking for this thing called money, and they haven't found it. Now, the point here is this. In societies or countries, developed countries, where they have very efficient industrial sectors, some small and medium scale entrepreneurial sectors, how do they fund those people? The money they use to start, how do they get it? That money they use, the one they used to start 200 years ago, the money that was used to start the Industrial Revolution, where did it come from? Did you get the point?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where did it come from?
Yeah.
The people that spawned out of the wherever. Where did they get the money from?
Yeah.
The fund that was used to develop America, where did it come from?
Yeah.
By the time you ask yourself these questions, then you would go to as we are here now, we are being asked to apply classical financial and economic practices. Where somebody who has to put in money must know what is going to get profits, going to get out of it, before he will give it out. That you would have started with it. Did they start that way? In America and Europe and all these other places. The money they used to start the development of South Africa, we're going to find out where did that money come from.
Yeah.
The original industrialists here, businessmen here, did they get the money from the way they're asking you to get it?
Yeah.
Let's find out.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that way.
Okay, thank you. Last one.
I think it's quite interesting and dynamic to have a person like you who's gone through those challenges. I personally, people ask me, well, you've stayed 23 years in ESCOM, but behind that, there's a lot of element of innovation that I've put through. And one of the examples which I did was to put the regional electricity trade, in fact, the formulation of it from my own basis. But then at a certain stage, you actually tell yourself that it's not worth you. Because all what I got a 5,000 rand, a small piece of, excellent information. And I was continuously being asked to come in. I did a lot of innovative aspects. Then I told ESCOM that it's now for you to part ways between ourselves, because I would rather work on my own space. And within the next couple of weeks, I'm coming up with a complete new product on the solar aspects. That's going to be dynamic. It's going to be a game changer. I've actually tried partnering with some of the international companies. And as you indicate, they actually have the money, but at the same time they can take the whole product out of it. In fact, we have innovative incubation processes with various companies. But if you don't stand your ground, like you said, you must actually make sure that
You must own the IP.
you own that thing.
Yeah.
And patenting it, I mean, you have a patent.
Yes.
Even if you have a patent to it, they still can influence you that level. I think that's a brilliant part, because money is very much easy to come.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, you might not get it. It goes to somebody else. So thank you so much for that informative aspect.
Thank you very much. I think that was excellent.